Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're fundamentally challenging the very fabric of physical reality itself. We're going to look at the universe not just as a random collection of atoms floating in a void, but as a brilliant, highly strategic blueprint for actually liberating human consciousness from what we might call the institutional matrix. If you've ever had that nagging feeling that there's got to be more to existence than just the solid, 3D matter around you, well, you're in the right place. This explainer is going to give you a profound, totally paradigm-shifting lens to see the world through.
Now, mainstream physics is absolutely obsessed with finding the foundational code of existence. Brilliant minds, like the renowned physicist Dr. Michio Kaku, spend their entire lives mapping out string theory. They're all searching for that ultimate one-inch equation to explain the whole shebang: the Big Bang, black holes, the 11 dimensions of hyperspace. And honestly, it's an incredible pursuit. But think about the massive assumption this whole pursuit rests on. It completely assumes that the universe is fundamentally made of mechanical, measurable strings.
So that brings us to a really crucial question. What if the strings, the particles, the dimensions, what if they're literally just the pixels on a screen? We really have to ask ourselves, is institutional science so hyper-focused on the resolution of the interface that it's completely ignoring the programmer, the actual rendering engine behind it all? Section 1, the cosmic puppet show. Let's start our journey by looking at how the most brilliant minds on the planet might actually just be mapping a giant illusion. Think of it like this. Dr. Kaku's realm of 11 dimensions, string theory, the massive particle accelerators, the Big Bang, that's all just the map. It's the underlying code of a digital interface. But in stark contrast, we have the territory. This draws heavily from ancient wisdom and visionary consciousness research, specifically the concept of Maya. Maya proposes that the physical world is really just a projected appearance. It's a greater consciousness field acting as a high-tech virtual reality. Of course, mainstream science often treats this visionary perspective as a total joke, right? They dismiss it as a fairy tale because it violates their established mathematical models. It's actually kind of fascinating when you think about it. Confident speculations about 11 invisible dimensions or bubble baths of parallel universes, those get massive applause in the scientific community, but the idea of reality as a simulation or a consciousness interface, instantly tossed out. No way. But let's flip the script for a second. What if the physical universe, with its Big Bang and its vibrating strings, isn't the source of reality at all? What if it's literally just the puppet show appearing inside of consciousness? Let's take a look at how quantum mechanics itself might actually prove this bold idea. Section 2, the quantum rendering engine. We are about to drop the hammer here and look at the actual, measurable glitch in the code of reality. This is where science accidentally proves the existence of the interface. We're talking about the direct mechanics of our holographic holodeck, beautifully demonstrated by the famous quantum double-slit protocol. Think about wave function collapse. In quantum mechanics, right before you measure a subatomic particle, it doesn't even exist as a solid object. It literally exists as a fluid wave of probability. It is pure, unrendered mathematical code. But the exact fraction of a second you observe it, boom, it snaps into a solid, definite path. So reality essentially renders in 3 distinct phases. First, you have unobserved potential, that fluid wave. Second, the actual moment of observation. And third, materialization. It's exactly like a high-tech video game. Think about it. A game only renders the graphics when the player's avatar is actually looking at them, just to save processing power, right? Well, consciousness acts as that rendering engine. The physical universe stays in a fluid state of potential until consciousness interacts with the interface, forcing the code to freeze into what we experience as solid 3D matter. The observer effect isn't just some weird, quirky physics anomaly. It is fundamental proof of a simulated universe. Section 3. The scientific psychosis. Now, if the physical universe is an interface, we really need to ask, why does institutional science completely refuse to look outside the box? Drawing on the incredible work of cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman, a profound truth starts to emerge. Science absolutely believes it's being objective, but it's still interpreting reality through built-in perceptual frameworks, things like space, time, mathematics, and the human ego mind. Science hasn't escaped the interface at all. It's just built massive, multi-billion-dollar particle colliders and space telescopes to measure the interface in incredibly high definition. And this creates a huge systemic trap. The sources we're exploring describe this as a scientific psychosis. Researchers start mistaking their own mathematical models for the ultimate source of truth. They claim absolute authority over reality, speculating endlessly about invisible dark matter and wormholes, yet they'll immediately minimize or dismiss the one thing that matters most: consciousness, the very foundation of the rendering engine. They've essentially become completely trapped inside their own intellectual dream.
Section 4. Gatekeepers of the Matrix. So what actually happens when human consciousness tries to breach the boundaries of this 3D holographic matrix? Basically, what happens when a mind wakes up? Well, instead of looking at this through a purely medical framework, our sources challenge us to view institutional psychiatry through a highly strategic lens. In this view, institutional psychiatry often acts as the primary gatekeeper of the mundane world. It operates as a literal social formatting program that is designed to violently protect the accepted boundaries of the 3D holodeck.
When a person's perception breaks free from the rendering engine, the dominant framework doesn't pause and ask, wow, what profound truths might this person be seeing? Not at all. Instead, it immediately translates that expansion of consciousness into pathology or delusion. The sole focus becomes funneling that awakened mind right back into social indoctrination. It's all about forcing them back into the approved mundane social framework. It acts as a massive defense mechanism for a dogmatic materialist paradigm.
Section 5. Liberating human consciousness. All right, let's wrap this explainer up by moving past the traps and looking directly at the blueprint for actual conscious emancipation. Acknowledging that the universe is a divine, consciousness-based interface absolutely does not destroy science. Not at all. It simply requires placing the materialist framework inside a much, much larger spiritual and metaphysical architecture. It humbles science. It reminds us that our 11 dimensions and our string theories, they're really just one language trying to describe the interface of a vastly greater cosmic mystery.
We have literally mapped the shadows of the holodeck and somehow convinced ourselves that the room is all there is. We've been living in an open institution, behaving perfectly according to the laws of a script that we have completely, mistakenly accepted as absolute reality.
As the visionary thinker Kukulkan put it, we are locked away because the dominant system has taught us that the door does not exist. The real danger to the establishment isn't just the complex math behind the holographic universe. It's the sudden, incredibly liberating realization that we are the gamer, not the game. We are the consciousness operating the avatar, not just the pixels flashing on the screen. I want to leave you with this final, visionary thought. If the double-slit experiment proves that our observation literally dictates and renders physical reality out of fluid probability, then you are definitely not a passive observer in a dead, mechanical universe. You are the active rendering engine. The door is right there in front of you, just waiting to be pushed open. So knowing that you hold the power to collapse the wave function of your very own existence, what will you choose to render next?